Let me tell you something, Seahawks fan. This offseason might look a little strange at first, especially after losing a guy like Kenneth Walker, but when you really look closer at what John Schneider did here, it starts to feel like there's a bigger plan behind all of this, and it might actually surprise a lot of people. That's what we need to discuss here, so be sure to click the like button and, if possible, comment. Go Seahawks! John Schneider just pulled off something that, inside the building, is already being talked about as one of the most calculated and quietly brilliant sequences of moves this franchise has made in recent years, and it all starts with a decision that, at first glance, didn't sit well with a lot of fans, letting Kenneth Walker walk out the door. Walker was not just another running back. He was explosive. He was productive when healthy. And in 2025, he showed again why he could be a game-changing presence. But the reality behind the scenes is that the Seahawks were never going to match what Kansas City put on the table. A 3-year deal worth over $43 million with $28.7 million guaranteed is the kind of contract that forces a front office to make a philosophical decision. And Schneider has been consistent about this. You don't overpay at running back when you believe you can replicate production at a fraction of the cost. That's exactly where this starts to feel like a calculated gamble rather than a loss. Walker wanted to be the featured back, not part of a split system, and in Kansas City, he's going to get that opportunity. In Seattle, the vision is different. The Seahawks are building something more flexible, more competitive internally, and frankly, more sustainable against the salary cap. Schneider has made it clear he'd rather allocate big money to premium positions and trust his staff to identify running backs who can thrive in the system without the massive financial commitment. Now here's where things get interesting, because the Seahawks didn't just let Walker go and hope for the best. They immediately pivoted, and one of those moves is already being viewed as highway robbery inside league circles. The signing of Emmanuel Wilson. Wilson arrives from Green Bay as a player who hasn't had the spotlight, but when you dig into what he's done, there's a lot to like. In limited opportunities, he consistently produced, stepping up when injuries forced him into a larger role. And what stands out immediately is efficiency. In his NFL career, he has never averaged under 4 yards per carry, even in seasons where his touches were limited. But numbers only tell part of the story. This is a 230-pound back with physicality, vision, and a running style that fits exactly what Seattle wants to build offensively. He's not the tallest back, but he runs heavy, he absorbs contact, and he keeps plays alive. And when he was given the chance to be the primary option in Green Bay, he didn't just survive, he elevated his game. Inside the organization, there's real belief that Wilson hasn't even scratched the surface yet. Schneider himself pointed to the scouting work behind the move, emphasizing how the staff identified not just talent, but a player who brings something different to the roster. A 1-year deal, low risk, high upside, and a clear message. Come in, compete, and prove you belong. And that word, compete, is everything in this new Seahawks identity under Mike Macdonald. Because Wilson isn't walking into a guaranteed role. He's entering a backfield that is suddenly wide open. And that's where the second part of this heist comes into play. Seattle didn't just add from the outside, they doubled down on a player already in the building who might be one of the most overlooked pieces of this entire roster. George Holani. Now going into his 3rd year, Holani is starting to generate real internal buzz. And it's not just coach speak. When you hear Schneider talk about him, there's a noticeable shift in tone. More excitement, more conviction. Holani may not have Kenneth Walker's breakaway speed, but what he does have might be even more valuable in this system. Patience, vision, and the ability to read developing lanes in an outside zone scheme. This offense, influenced by the Kyle Shanahan tree, has a history of turning disciplined, instinctive runners into highly productive players. And Holani fits that mold perfectly. Late in the season, especially during the postseason run, he showed flashes that caught attention internally. Key plays, reliable pass protection, and the kind of consistency that earns trust from a coaching staff trying to build a culture rooted in selflessness and execution. Even voices outside Seattle are starting to recognize it. There's a growing belief that Holani could, at some point this season, take over as RB1, even if not permanently. And when you combine that with Wilson's upside, you start to see the blueprint: multiple capable backs, all competing, all affordable, all fitting the system. And we're not even done yet, because while everyone is focused on Wilson and Holani, there's another name quietly sitting in the background that could completely shake up this conversation: Kenny McIntosh. He missed the entire season with a torn ACL, but before that, he showed flashes of explosiveness, speed, and vision that could make him a legitimate factor once he's back on the field. So, what you're looking at isn't a downgrade. It's a transformation. Instead of one high-priced star, the Seahawks now have a room full of hungry, system-fit players, all with something to prove. It's cheaper, it's deeper, and if it hits the way Schneider believes it can, it might end up being more productive over the course of a full season. And that's why, inside the building, this isn't being seen as losing Kenneth Walker. It's being seen as resetting the position in a way that could give Seattle more flexibility, more competition, and maybe even more production when it matters most. But now it comes down to results on the field. Do you believe the Seahawks actually upgraded their running back situation with these moves? Or is losing Kenneth Walker going to come back and hurt this offense in 2026? And the more you dig into this situation, the more it feels like the Seahawks didn't just react to losing Kenneth Walker. They anticipated it and built a plan that could actually elevate the entire offense moving forward. Because think about what this running back room now represents. You've got Emmanuel Wilson bringing physicality and a downhill presence that can wear defenses out over 4 quarters. You've got George Holani, a patient and intelligent runner who fits naturally into the outside zone concepts that are expected to be a major part of this scheme. And then there's Kenny McIntosh, who might quietly be the most explosive of the group when fully healthy, capable of turning limited touches into big plays. That diversity matters. Last season, when Walker was on the field, the offense at times leaned heavily on his ability to create something out of nothing. That's valuable, no question. But it can also make an offense predictable if there isn't enough variation behind it. What Seattle is building now feels more unpredictable, more adaptable week to week depending on the opponent. And let's not ignore another key factor here: competition. There is no guaranteed RB1 walking into training camp. That changes everything. Every rep matters. Every preseason carry matters. Every opportunity becomes a chance to climb the depth chart. And under a coaching staff that has made it clear they value accountability and competition, that kind of environment can bring out the absolute best in players who are still trying to prove themselves. Emmanuel Wilson is trying to prove he can be more than just a backup who flashes in limited moments. George Holani is trying to prove he deserves a larger role after being overlooked. Kenny McIntosh is trying to prove he can come back from injury and become a true weapon in this offense. That's 3 different motivations, all colliding in the same room. And if even 2 of those 3 hit their ceiling, this suddenly becomes one of the most efficient backfields in the league relative to cost. That's the part that keeps coming back when you analyze Schneider's approach. It's not just about replacing production, it's about maximizing value. Because while other teams are committing massive cap space to a single running back, the Seahawks are spreading that investment across multiple players and betting on their system to elevate them. And history says that's not a crazy bet. We've seen offenses built on this philosophy consistently generate strong rushing attacks without relying on one superstar. It comes down to vision, blocking schemes, timing, and discipline. And from everything we're hearing, that's exactly what this coaching staff is emphasizing heading into the 2026 season. There's also a bigger picture here that fans shouldn't ignore. By not committing that kind of money to Kenneth Walker, the Seahawks keep flexibility. Flexibility to extend key players. Flexibility to reinforce other positions. Flexibility to make moves during the season if something unexpected happens. In today's NFL, that kind of financial breathing room can be the difference between being a good team and a championship-caliber one. And if you think back to how last season ended, with Seattle lifting the Lombardi Trophy, you start to understand why there's trust in this approach. This front office has earned the benefit of the doubt. Still, none of this guarantees success. There's risk here. If Wilson doesn't take that next step, if Halani can't handle a larger workload, if McIntosh struggles to return to form, then suddenly the absence of Kenneth Walker becomes much more noticeable. That's the balance the Seahawks are walking into this season. High upside, low cost, but not without uncertainty. And that's what makes this one of the most fascinating storylines to watch as we get closer to kickoff. Because if this plan works, people are going to look back at this offseason and say, this was one of John Schneider's smartest moves yet. But if it doesn't, it's going to raise real questions about whether letting a proven talent like Walker walk away was the right call. Now, I want to hear from you. Are you buying into this new-look Seahawks backfield? Or do you still think this team is going to feel the loss of Kenneth Walker when the season gets underway? And if you want to stay on top of everything happening with the Seahawks, make sure you subscribe to the channel, drop a like on the video, and click the video that's on your screen right now, because all the latest updates and breaking news, you're only going to find it here first. Go Seahawks!